Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you guys one of my most ambitious TBR videos ever. I'm going to be talking about my April reading plans, and I don't know who I think I am that I'm going to read all of these books in a month, but here we are. These are books that I'm just so excited about reading ASAP that I just threw them all together into my April TBR. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. I'm gonna talk about the books that I don't have physical copies of first, and then I'll get into this massive stack of books that I do own. So the first book I really wanna get to is House of Salt and Sorrows. I think this is by Erin A. Craig. This is a YA dark fantasy. It sounds like there's horror elements to it, maybe. I think it's a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and this takes place in a fantastical world that's like this coastal town. And that's really all I know about it. I've heard really great things about this from Haley in Bookland, and I think a couple of other booktubers really enjoyed this book. Next we have the What He Doesn't Know series. This is by Candy Steiner. So this is a trilogy. And the reason why I want to read this is that I've heard Jess from Peace Love Books talk about this series a bit. And the way that she pitched it is that this is a love triangle story. And the first two books of the trilogy are about the love triangle and how you truly don't know who the heroine is going to end up with. And I have realized that I'm just really into those stories at the moment because I read Heartbreak Warfare recently as a part of a reading vlog that I did, reading some of Bree's favorite romances. I'll link that up in the cards above. And that story is about a love triangle where you truly do not know who the heroine is going to end up with. I am so sorry that the sky is falling outside, but I need to film this video now. And what's really interesting too is that the third and final book is the romance of the guy that she doesn't end up with. So we essentially get everyone's happily ever after in the span of 3 books. Just sounds like it's gonna be an emotional time, and I am so here for that. Next up, we have All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diary series. It sounds like this is a series of novellas. I really don't know much about this series. I've heard quite a few booktubers rave and rave about it. It's about this murderbot that I assume murders people and is just trying to live its life and also hates people. And I can relate to that to an extent. I can relate to kind of hating people sometimes. Yeah, I've heard that this is actually a really clever and funny series, but it also is a really great science fiction series. So I'm really looking forward to reading this first novella in April. Next book I really want to check out in April is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. So this is a trilogy. It's a YA sci-fi trilogy that has been recommended to me because I love the Illuminae files so much. I've heard that there's kind of similarities between the two, but this one focuses more on the romance, and that sounds amazing to me. I have overall heard pretty positive things about this series, so I am definitely looking forward to it. I have read from both of these authors separately because Amy Kaufman was one of the writers for the Illuminae files, and then Megan Spooner, I read Hunted by her, and I really enjoyed that as well. So I'm really interested to see how these two authors write together. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for books that I don't own physical copies of. So now we're gonna get into the massive stack of books that I have over here. So in April, I am planning to binge the entire Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn, and rest assured that I will be vlogging my experience. I'm really looking forward to this. I am not planning on reading the first book, The Duke and I, because there is a scene that at best has dubious consent that I have no interest in reading. I know it's just gonna make me angry. And I don't know, I've just heard things about that romance that it just doesn't sound all that appealing to me. So I'm starting with the second book, and I'm going to read the rest of the book. So this is The Viscount Who Loved Me. Then we have An Offer from a Gentleman. I've heard that this one is kind of a Cinderella retelling. Then we have Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, and yes, these are original. I think most of these are first edition copies. Then we have To Sir Philip with Love. Then When He Was Wicked, It's in His Kiss. and the final book of the series is On the Way to the Wedding. So yes, I'm really looking forward to vlogging my experience with this series, and I think what I'm going to do also in that vlog is rank them from my least favorite to my most favorite, so that's going to be really fun as well. I've never read from Julia Quinn before, so I'm also looking forward to reading that series to read a new to me historical romance author. Right, and we have a few more historical romances that I want to talk about. First of all, I just need to reread my favorite historical romance of all time, which is The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. This is purely for the goodness of my soul and for my sanity. I've been raving about this book for so long. I read this back in August of 2019. And for me, it's just well past time that I reread it. I talk about this book all the time, but this is book 1 in the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare. And this one is about Emma, who is a seamstress, and Ash, who is the Duke of Ashbury. It's a marriage of convenience. Next up, we have How to Love a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Byrne. This is book 1 in her The Devil You Know series. And I've read book 2 of this series. I was a bit underwhelmed by it. Kerrigan Byrne is an author that has been hit or miss for me personally. I know people that just adore everything the woman writes, and I can totally understand why. She writes definitely just darker historicals, and I don't hate dark romances, but they're not always my cup of tea. Basically, the premise of this, we have our heroine, Lady Alexandra Lane. Her family is nearing bankruptcy, and so her solution is to get married to one of the empire's most wealthy and eligible bachelors, even if he does have the reputation of a devil. And so that is Piers, who is the Duke of Redmayne, and I've heard really great things about this one. I think people tend to like this book more than the follow-up book, which, like I said, that one was a bit of a miss for me, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Then my last historical that I'm going to talk about is 11 Scandals to Start to Win a Duke's Heart by Sarah MacLean. I read the first book in this series, which is 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. I loved that book so much. Gave it 5 stars. Definitely my favorite Sarah MacLean book that I've read so far, so I'm really excited to read this one because this one is centering around Juliana, who is the half-sister of the hero from that previous book. And the way that the plot of this one was set up in that first book was just so entertaining and intriguing to me. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Then we have Always Only You by Chloe Elise. This is book 2 in her Bergman Brothers series, and I read Only When It's Us back in December. Absolutely devoured and loved that book. It almost made my top 10 favorite romances of 2020. That's how much I loved it. What I love about Chloe Elise is that she writes amazing romances that have great disability representation. I don't really know what this one is about, although I think it's like a Grump Sunshine trope where the heroine is the grump, which I love those kinds of stories. And we have Ren and Frankie. I think Ren is a hockey player and Frankie works for the team that he plays for. I'm not really sure, but I've heard both Jess and Bree rave about this book, so I'm really excited to get to it in April. Then we have The Wicker King by Kay Ankrum. Kay Ankrum is an author that I feel like at this point it's like a crime that I haven't read any of her books, and I knew that I wanted to start with The Wicker King. This one just looks so cool. Like, it has a definitely like a multimedia aspect to it. It's about our main characters August and Jack, and it sounds like they end up having this like emotionally dependent relationship with each other, and things get kind of toxic. I think one of them ends up having a lot of mental health issues, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I know I've heard Bree rave about this one for sure. Then we have To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This is a book I believe I mentioned in my 21 books I want to read in 2021 video. The premise of this one just sounds so cool. I am obsessed with enemies to lovers stories where one of the characters is sent to kill the other character, but then they end up falling in love. So we have our main character, Princess Lyra, and she gets punished by her mother, who's the Sea Queen, and gets turned into a human. And so Lyra has a certain amount of time to deliver Prince Elian's heart to the Sea Queen, or she will remain a human forever. I am already so intrigued by that. Oh my goodness. I need more like actual enemies to lovers stories in my life. So if you guys have recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. Next up, we have the Daughter of the Pirate King duology by Trisha Levenseller. So that includes Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen. First of all, I love these covers. They're absolutely everything. Trisha Levenseller is an author that I quickly fell in love with when I read The Shadows Between Us last year. That was one of my top favorite books of 2020. Didn't quite make my top 10 books of the year, but it was almost there. I really loved that book. Highly recommend if you're looking for a really great, like, darker YA fantasy romance. So amazing. So this one, I think I'm going to read a little bit of the plot on the back, but it says, sent on a mission to retrieve an ancient hidden map, 17-year-old pirate captain Alosa deliberately allows herself to be captured by her enemies, giving her the perfect opportunity to search their ship. And it also sounds like there's going to be an amazing romance in here as well, so I'm really excited about this. All right, next up we have quite the chunky book. That is going to be Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I am finally deciding to read this book. I know that this is a very epic and huge historical fiction series. I think there's some fantastical elements as well, if I'm not mistaken. But for now, I'm just planning on reading the first book. This is quite the chunky book. It is 627 pages. I've heard that this is just one of the best epic romances out there. I really don't know much about the plot, even though it is a very popular TV series at this point. It sounds like we have Claire, who is a nurse during World War II, and then she somehow ends up in 1743 in Scotland. And there's a great romance, and I think there's also like a complicated love triangle going on. As we've already established in this video, I'm a sucker for that, so I'm really looking forward to finally reading this month. Next up, we have Where the Crawdads Sing. This is by Delia Owens. This was another book that I mentioned in my 21 books I want to read in 2021. This one just sounds so intriguing to me. It's about this woman who's known as the Marsh Girl. And in late 1969, there is a man who's found dead, and the locals immediately suspect Kaya, who is the Marsh Girl, and things go on from there. I think there's a romance in here as well. I'm not really sure. It sounds like it could be a mystery thriller. Sounds like it could just be literary fiction with a good romance. Like, I'm not really sure. Next up, we have Anna Kay by Jenny Lee. So this is a book that I've been meaning to read for quite some time, and this is kind of a YA retelling of Anna Karenina, but this story is centered around Anna Kay, who is Korean American, and it sounds kind of like Gossip Girl based off of the synopsis. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of messy teenage drama. As we've also already established in this video, I am here for all of the tea and the drama, so I'm really looking forward to this one. This is the first book in a series. I think the second book is coming out, I want to say, in May or June. Last but certainly not least is another reread of mine. I decided to reread one of my other all-time favorite romances, and this is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I also read this in 2019, fell head over heels in love with it, and I knew that I needed to reread it as soon as possible because it's been almost 2 years at this point, and I just love this book so much. In case you don't know, it's basically a reverse Pretty Woman, and we have our main character Stella, who has autism spectrum disorder, and we have Michael, our hero, who is Vietnamese and Swedish, and he is a male escort, and things go on from there. I'm sure that you guys have heard a lot about this book at this point, so I'm just so pumped to reread it because I just love it so much. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this massive April TBR. Like I said, I don't think that I'm actually gonna read all of these books, but if it happens, that would be incredible. So yeah, with that being said, I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to tell me about some of the books that you plan on reading in April. And I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!